Hello, Tottenham fans. My name's Kieran Bacon, and this is my YouTube channel dedicated to all things Tottenham. I won't bore you with all the details about what's going to happen in this channel. As I said, all things Tottenham. So if that tickles your fancy, subscribe to the channel. You can support this video with a like, thumbs up. You can turn on the bell notifications so when all my new videos go live, you will be informed. So let's jump into it. Tottenham Hotspur playing Wolfsberger in the second leg of our Europa League tie. We are victorious, which has taken us through to the last 16. Thank God. We have been on a questionable run at the moment, and it just feels nice to get through and have some positives. So what we're going to do, we will talk about ins and outs of the game. We will talk about the players, talk about managers' comments, and we had some more good news with some youngsters in the squad that managed to get their debuts. So the first leg finished 4-1. Second leg finishes 4-0. That is an 8-1 aggregate. We also had 4 away goals from the first game. I'll look at the stats. We scored 4 goals. Possession, 55% to us, which is less possession than you would have expected to have against a team of this quality. But hey-ho, the result came. 8 shots on target to their 3. We actually had 18 shots in total. A few of them were blocked. There was a few chances gone begging. We picked up 3 yellow cards and they picked up 2. We had 4 corners to their 2 and an offside apiece each. So if we look at the starting lineups, Joe Hart was brought back into the lineup after Lloris played the first leg. Didn't have much to do. 2 very easy, comfortable saves that were pretty much right at him. The one thing I would say that I like about Joe Hart is he is so vocal. I mean, he talks to the defence constantly. You can even hear him shouting at the midfield when they're right up in the second half, willing people on. It's just a shame he's not Hugo Lloris. If you could combine the 2 of them, we would be in a great position this season because I feel Hugo Lloris actually lacks a little bit of that leadership on the pitch. Apparently he's great in the dressing room, but when it comes to on pitch, Joe Hart is second to none. And especially with youngsters on the pitch or players out of form, he is a guy that you want backing you. Centre-back pairing of Dyer and Alderweireld. Now we know centre-back, it's been a bit of a problem this season. We must take into account the fact that we've played 40 games, which is more than any other team in Europe. I say 40, I think we're on 42 now by this point. But that's more than any other team in Europe. Obviously, our season started early because we had to qualify for the Europa League. So, our players have had a hard time. On top of that, we lost Vertonghen. He wasn't getting much game time. He was slowing down, so he had to go. But since he's gone, you'll find that Sanchez has actually taken a dip in form. I feel like Vertonghen was a centre-back that is great to be partnered with. He always makes the person next to him better. He communicates throughout the whole game. And I feel like when Alderweireld partners Sanchez, we lack a bit of that communication between the two because Alderweireld just leads by example. I don't think he's the most vocal. Now, as for Dyer, when he's at the back, he's not the most vocal either. I mean, the fact is, he was moved into midfield for a good chunk of his career now. Started as a centre-back, came to us, we pushed him out to right-back, and then in centre-mid, and now he's converted back. So, naturally, he's trying to find his way. He's very good in the air, prone to a mistake, but that's going to happen. Give him a couple more years next to a world-class centre-back, and we're looking at, a really good centre-back on our hands there. They didn't really have much to do, fairly easy evening. Wolfsberger put a few decent crosses in. Dyer, there was a possible penalty shout against him. The referee didn't even look at it, so, we'll move on from that. It is what it is. Davies was at left back. He had more to do of the fullbacks in terms of defending. They attacked a lot down the right-hand side, and that's where their decent crosses really came from. Davies did an okay job. Not much to report on that. At right back, Doherty, he had an okay game. Obviously, he's not been exactly what we expected that we were going to get, but we play a different system to Wolves, so he was never going to be the same player that he was at Wolves. Had some good overlaps, some good link-up play with Sissoko, especially in the first half. He was out of position a few times, and he has a tendency to let his man go. There was a few times where he was a bit higher and the man managed to get in behind him, but wasn't a massive problem. So if we head to the central midfield partnership, we have Sissoko and Winks back together. Now, Winks got 90 minutes, which is good for him. He hasn't had that much game time recently, mainly down to the form of Højbjerg and Ndombele. Winks had an okay game. He did his job, so did Sissoko. They didn't have a lot of pressure put on them, and they weren't ultra expressive. I mean, Winks tried to get more involved in the second half. He actually had a couple of chances. One he blazed over the bar, and another one he played some great play on the edge of the box to then get into the box, but again, that came to nothing. Creatively, they didn't do too much. But, we won the game, so job done for them. Out on the left, Bergwijn. We've been used to seeing him on the right more this season. His performance it was really good. He was very lively. He offered some good runs. He was always willing, wanting to get on the ball. He actually had some really good link-up play with Davies. When Davies was winning the ball back in that left-back area, you found that Bergwijn was, always there to give him an option. They played a good couple of 1-2s inside with each other. And you actually saw them, I think it was once in the first half, you actually see him go over and sort of like give a hand tap to say well done. So that was a nice little partnership going on there. His work rate was fantastic. Again, he had a few chances, had a few shots. The only problem is he's just not scoring them goals. Earlier on in the season, we can kind of forgive it because Bergwijn offers space to Kane and Son when he's playing with them in sort of like a front three. His unselfish runs leave space for them. We'll find defenders will follow Bergwijn, and that's less defenders on Kane and Son. They're the guys that hit hard and they get us the goals. So you can kind of forgive him in that sense. But now you want him to push on. He needs to start scoring goals and contributing. He's still young, and I feel like he's going to offer some decent things as time goes on. Now on the right-hand side, Eric Lamela. He really splits opinions amongst Spurs fans. My personal opinion, I like Lamela. For the fact that he is a workhorse. It doesn't matter how well we are playing, how well he is playing. The guy runs, the guy tracks back, the guy tackles. He is a dream for Mourinho, and if he'd have stayed fit throughout his Spurs career, we could be looking at a completely different player. He's very good on the ball. He does hold on to it too often sometimes, and his passes aren't always the best. But the fact is, he's always looking, he always supports, he always gives 100%. I mean, every time I go to watch him, we have a bet in the car as to what minute he's going to pick up a yellow card. He's just very tenacious, and I think it's a South American thing. They're all quite tenacious in the tackle, especially the Argentinians. Lo Celso's not too dissimilar. If you watch him, he loves a tackle as well. They just have this work ethic that is, they're hungry. And I feel Lamela played really well. And if he didn't pick up that booking against West Ham, I would not have been surprised to see him stay on the pitch instead of Moura. Now, I know Moura got a goal, but I do feel he would have been the man to come off if Lamela hadn't had a booking, because he was, until Bale came on, in my opinion, the best player we had on the pitch. He was offering the most. Now we move on to Dele, sitting in the attacking midfield role. What can I say? We have been waiting for Dele to come out of his shell. I know it's weaker opposition, but the guy needs confidence. And in this game, he was excellent. He was hungry. He was running. He put in tackles. He got his assists. He got his goal. Can we say Dele's back? We'll see as time goes on. But the fact is, the guy was low in confidence. Even before Pochettino left, he wasn't having a great season. You know, a lot had been expected of him the way he started off, but I think over time people had figured him out a little bit. Every time Dele gets the ball, in my opinion, he will try and take them on. So players knew what to expect, and he just needed to adapt to a new way of playing. And hopefully, we're going to see a different Dele on our hands because his performance was really good. I enjoyed it, and I'm really happy for him. And Mourinho seemed happy as well, which we'll talk about a bit later on. Up top, Carlos Vinicius. He is splitting opinions all over the place. Should we buy him? Shouldn't we buy him? Is he even worth being here on loan? There are so many ways to look at this argument, but for me, this comes down to Jose. He keeps saying Son is not a striker. Son is a winger. When Kane's not playing, he has a habit of using Sonny as a striker when we have Vinicius there. I understand that he doesn't play the same role as Harry Kane. You know, Vinicius will not drop as far back as Kane for those runners to move on to. He's younger. Kane's at a point now where he's developed his game. Like, just he's not just a striker anymore. You could see Harry Kane playing further back into midfield in his later days, like we had with Wayne Rooney when he was at Manchester United. You know, dropping back because his passing's that good. But that's something you learn as time goes on. Now Vinicius, he's everything we need in a backup striker, and his record for Spurs has been pretty good in goals to game ratio. I don't take all goals to game seriously because it's more minutes played you need to look at. He doesn't get the minutes I feel that he should. He should be playing more games, and the reason we're not seeing the best of Vinicius is for those reasons. If you don't get the minutes, it's hard to gel. Now, when you're playing alongside players like Dele, who also hasn't been playing a lot, that means you're not going to have the best relationship because you haven't had time to gel on the pitch. On the training field is completely different to a game. You know, the intensity's different, adrenaline's pumping. I mean, there was a point where Dele played this beautiful ball with the outside of his foot and was sort of looking at Vinicius like, you know, what more could I do? I put it on a plate for you. And Vinicius didn't make that run. Now, I think had they played together a lot more, he would have known that Dele was going to whip it in that way. And he would make the run. But he's not getting the game time. So those little things aren't there. And maybe just match sharpness isn't there. They haven't got the ability to sprint constantly throughout the game. So now let's talk about the game. We'll just have a little run through of key moments, if you will. The opening 10 minutes, we looked comfortable. We were controlling the game, sort of feeling our way into it, if you will. 7 minutes in, Bergwijn running down the left. He cuts inside onto his right, takes a shot, just drags it slightly wide from about 20 yards out. You know, that's a warm-up in my eyes. 10 minutes in, moment of the game. Dele's goal. Oh my days. Now this goal, this has got to be the thing that brings Dele back with confidence and joy. I was so happy for him, and I think all Spurs fans were also happy for him. But what was brilliant about the goal wasn't just the finish itself. Dele starts this goal, his hunger and desire. He wins the ball back with a great tackle. He actually stays down for a bit before he gets up. The ball heads off to Lamela. And then Lamela puts it wide to Bergwijn, who brings it back to Dele, who is now approaching the edge of the 18-yard box, who then hits it out wide to Doherty. Dele then makes his way into the box. Doherty hits a cross. Wasn't actually the best cross in the world. It was an awkward height, but Dele's first touch actually makes it pop back up nicely for sweet bicycle kick into the bottom right-hand corner. What a moment, what a goal. Weakened opposition or not, it's an individual bit of brilliance. Ooh. Into the first half as well. 23 minutes in, Toby hits this fantastic diagonal ball from right to left for Bergwijn, who takes it with a great first touch. And you can actually hear Mourinho willing him on, telling him to run. He then attacks his way towards the box, cuts inside, and unfortunately, when he unleashes the shot, it is blocked. But nonetheless, another great piece of play from Spurs. It's nice to see Toby hitting those long balls again and them actually going on target. And Bergwijn's desire to make his way into the box once again. individual piece of brilliance. Unlucky, shot blocked. 33 minutes in, Vinicius hit a lovely through ball from deep in our half to Dele, who's making a breaking run. It was a really good ball. Their keeper actually did really well here. He comes flying out to meet the ball before Dele can get there. And after that first goal, you know if Dele latches onto that, there is no doubt that is going back in the net. Couple of minutes down the line, Doherty gets booked. It wasn't a real rash challenge. It's just one of them where his foot's gone over and he's kind of just stamped on the side of the player. Not an intentional stamp, nothing in it. Then 44 minutes in, Lamela makes a great tackle near the halfway line. Plays back and forth with Winks, carries on a nice little run, and he does these soul rolls that he does that gets him past players all the time. Plays a nice ball into Vinicius, who has this lovely moment of brilliance where he's in the box, he takes it round the keeper with a Lamela soul roll, and you are just waiting for him to put it in the back of the net. He just takes a little bit too long, delays, because he wants to take it on his left foot, tries to pass it into the back of the net, and one of their defenders just clears it off the line. Now, after that soul roll, had he taken it first time with his right foot, that would be in the back of the net. Alternatively, because he's waited too long, he could have actually cut it back to Dele, and then that would have been 2-0, another goal for Dele. But it was a great bit of skill, and it's just one of them where he just waited a little bit too long. So I feel sorry for him there. But the fact is, he's getting in the positions. You know, that was a good piece of individual skill. It was just lacking that bit of punch and aggression. And that was really the first half. Wolfsberg, they did have a couple of moments of play. They found their way through. The majority of the game was actually bogged down to just around the circle at the halfway. It was kind of a bit of it was more us knocking the ball about as such. But when they did have the ball, you can see why they've got through, because they play quite well with the ball. They work really hard. They just kind of lack that composure, if you will, with the last ball and with the shot. I mean, their shots were straight at Joe Hart, very comfortable, but they were getting into the space, and with the added quality, they could have actually scored a couple of goals and done some damage. But hey ho, they didn't. So second half, and all we had to wait was 5 minutes for another goal. Vinicius gets his goal. Now, this was another reminder of Dele at his best. You know, he gets the ball, played from the wing back to him out on the left, just sort of like 7-8 yards outside the 18-yard box on the left, and he whips in this beautiful cross. I say whipped, I mean more floats it in, and you know, the credit goes for him because it was a great ball. And then Vinicius comes in with his head, heads it down into the ground, bounces just in front of the keeper, and then ends up in the back of the net. And I actually want to credit Vinicius as well, because if you watch before Dele takes the shot, Vinicius actually puts his hand up and starts pointing. He tells him that he wants that ball to come in and across, so he's willing to make that run. And because Dele had his head up and had the look, that's what creates the goal. So well done to the both of them on that. Good goal. So that's now 2-0 to the Spurs. 6-1 on aggregate. 4 minutes later, Lamela gets the ball back from a short corner. I mean, he'd done a bit of work anyway to get us the corner. Gets the ball back from the short corner. Has some great bit of skill in the box to beat two players down by the byline. And then he gets a shot away. And unfortunately, it's headed away for a corner. So more good play by Lamela. And then the game kind of, you know, it's doing its thing. It's ticking over. Substitutions start to be made. And Bale was introduced. Moore was introduced. And we didn't have to wait long. 73 minutes, and Gareth Bale contributes with a goal. And this was a credit once again to the man, Dele. So he plays a really nice timed ball. So he's picked up the ball, and he's sort of moving ever so slowly. You can see Bale making this run, and this lovely gap is appearing in between the defence. A nice diagonal ball between the defence and midfield, and Dele just waits and waits and waits, and then slots this ball through beautifully. And Gareth Bale runs onto this, hits it first time, whips it into the top left-hand corner. And this is what we want from Gareth Bale. This is the Gareth Bale we know and love. It was like the Gareth Bale of old. That sweet left foot. Goalkeeper has no chance whatsoever. And we are now 3-0 up in the game. You know, things just seem to be clicking. These players that are so-called out of form are now starting to hit their stride. And that can only be good going forward. And then we have the introduction of some of the youngsters, which we'll talk about in a bit. But we'll just finish up with 83 minutes, Vinicius with his second goal of the game. Now, I don't know how I feel about this one. Like, it's great for Vinicius because he scored 2 goals in a game in the Europa League. That's great for him. So Dane Scarlett has this great press. Their defender is really lingering on the ball and it's quite poor. But the way Scarlett presses him is at an angle where the defender, you know, he can't play it out to the player on the right. So he just lingers on the ball a little bit longer. Dane Scarlett comes in with a challenge. The ball rolls through and you're thinking he's going to hit this and have a chance on goal. But Vinicius comes in so quickly. And it's a bit like the Bale goal, but it's from the other side. So Bale's was from the right into the left-hand corner. Vinicius is on the left into the left top corner. But a similar type of strike nonetheless. So it's one of those where you really wanted Dane Scarlett to have the chance, but as a striker, you know, Vinicius comes in and hits it, and it actually, you know, we scored a goal, it guaranteed it anyway. And for me, like the assist was given to Dane Scarlett, and they were saying that he's the youngest player to get an assist in European competition. But it's one of them where it's an assist, but it's kind of not, because it wasn't actually meant to be a pass. It was, you know, he'd come in and nicked the ball and Vinicius has run onto it. So it's one of those that's an assist, but it wasn't. It was Dane Scarlett just hungry, wanting to get on the ball and probably expected that he was going to have the shot himself. But nonetheless, we win the game 4-0, 8-1 on aggregate. We are through. Now let's talk about the youngsters. So the guy that comes on for Doherty is Marcel Lavinia. So for those of you that know, he did sign from Chelsea last summer. He's 20 years old. He was there for, I think it was 13 years that he was there for. But since he's been with us, he's been a regular starter for the development squad. And he's got a bit of Portuguese in him. And I actually thought when I saw him from a distance, I was like, I swear Jedson Fernandez has gone. They look a little bit like they could be related. I don't know if that's just, you know, the Portuguese in them, but, you know, they look a little bit alike. Now, Niall John, 17 years old, he's been at Spurs since he's 7. So 10 years after joining, he has made his debut in the Europa League in the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. He didn't really have too much to do. You know, he was just in there, but a little bit of background information on him. He got the call for the game at, I think it was 10:30 in the morning. He was actually studying. So he's studying a BTEC level 3 extended diploma in sport and also A-level economics. So there he was studying away, and then 10:30 in the morning he gets a phone call from the academy manager Dean, and he was saying, "Oh, you're gonna be with the first team." You know, and he's thinking, "Oh, that's great. I'm gonna go train with the first team." Another one of the youngsters getting a call up. That's really good. A little did he know that he was actually going to be playing for the first team. You know, in the squad, he's getting fitted for his suit. So, you know, it's a lovely little story. And it's just such a shame that, you know, he's been at the club since he was 7. 10 years he's been with the club, gets his debut, and it's just such a shame that, you know, fans couldn't be there, and more importantly, his family couldn't be there, because that would have made the moment so much more special. But nonetheless, to, you know, grace the pitch with some of the stars that we have in our squad. And on top of that, we had, you know, the likes of Ndombele, Kane, Sonny sitting on the bench. So, he was still, training with the squad, got to be there on the bench, probably, exchanging the odd word and whatnot. And then Dane Scarlett, again, back in the squad. He's actually training with the first team on a real regular basis now. Looks like he's going to be a great talent, scoring so many goals for the youth teams, and he is really one to watch for the future. I wouldn't be surprised if we see maybe a couple of loans to some clubs just to gain a little bit of confidence over the next couple of years. Sort of like what we're doing with Oliver Skipp now. Had a bit of time with the first team, playing with the first team, and then sent out on loan to, really establish themselves and get that guaranteed game time that unfortunately he's not going to get at Spurs. And Mourinho was talking about him, saying that he's doing with him a little bit like what he did with Marcus Rashford. When they're younger, obviously they haven't got the physical presence to battle with those Premier League centre-backs. So what he's doing is playing him a bit further out wide on the left, like he did with Rashford at Manchester United. And we can all see proof in the pudding that that's worked really well for him, because Rashford is more versatile and can play anywhere across the front line. So fingers crossed that happens with Dane Scarlett and we manage to keep hold of him and we do find him some game time. But obviously we do have Troy Parrott to make his way back. So, it could be a few years until we see that. Now, the last of the academy players that was involved in the squad, who unfortunately didn't get on, was Dylan Markande. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Hopefully I am. He's 19 years old, an attacking midfielder. He's also a regular within the youth setup. But, great experience for him to be training with the first team and also around a matchday squad. Hopefully we'll see some more of him soon. And maybe we'll get to play. But I should imagine that's only going to be if Jose is going to put some more youngsters in the squad as the tournament goes on, because now we're getting into the serious part where, we've got the Champions League teams that have dropped down are all going to be playing. So it's really going to hot up, and I think we will probably see a stronger starting lineup moving forward. So if we talk about the Jose post-match interview that he was doing, he does speak about how happy he was for the academy boys to be involved with the setup. He mentioned that Dane Scarlett is like a diamond, which is a really, really nice bit of praise for the lad. And he was saying that, he appreciates the fact that these players can be involved. He quite often brings academy players in when they do an 11-on-11 in first team training. So he's going to get to see them play all the time. And there's no bigger compliment to our academy staff than the boys being handed their debuts and being put into the squads. Because there's one thing training with the players, it's a completely different ball game. Being involved with the squad, travelling on the bus, getting all suited and booted. It's a completely different mindset to what they're used to with the development squads. And it's a good learning curve. They get an opportunity to talk to the first team players, and I'm sure the more experienced guys in the squad, especially someone like Joe Hart, putting their arm around them and giving them some words of encouragement, and hopefully they take it on board and it makes them better players in the future. But on top of that, the more experience they get, the better it is when they go back to the development squad, so they'll have a more professional attitude, and hopefully that rubs off on the other youngsters, and then we end up having a more competitive youth setup. Jose also was asked about Dele, and what was really interesting is he was saying that Dele does deserve the headlines, but not because of his goal. Like, although it was a great piece of individual ability, the thing that he was saying he should get the headlines for is his all-round performance. He was saying that he worked really hard for the team, and it's good to see him back in this sort of form. Do we always agree with the fact that he was dropped from the squad? It's hard to know from an outside perspective. We're not there day in, day out, so we don't really know what's gone on. Obviously, in the documentary, he labelled him as a lazy trainer. Said it in kind of a banterful way, but we don't know how deep that runs. And we don't see all the behind closed doors conversations and what Dele's attitude really has been. But the fact is, there was a lot of distraction. It wasn't just the fact that, he was out of form. It's also the fact that he picked up some niggling injuries, and one kept him out for a decent chunk of time, so he's not going to play during that. Then he's got to work his way back into the squad, and unfortunately that hasn't happened. Like in midfield, that's one of the places we've been at our strongest this season. Our midfield has been particularly good. And there hasn't been as much rotation as we thought there would have been. Winks has barely been getting any game time. Recently, Sissoko has dropped to the bench because Ndombele is dropping into a deeper role. And that's come down to the fact that, Lamela has been playing really well. Mora has just started to play a little bit better. Bergwijn had a decent run where he offers us a lot defensively. And helps us keep our shape. So, there are players that have been keeping these guys out of the team. And it's hard to give them the minutes because Mourinho's in a high-pressure job. We need to finish in the top four. And this is where I think fans are so quick to blame players and managers. There's been a lot of talk that we're not good enough, our defence is rubbish, and yada, yada, yada. Now, we need to remember, we have played a lot of games. And during this pandemic, unfortunately, those games have been closer together than they normally would be. So there's going to be a lot of fatigue in the squad. There are going to be individual errors. Now, I'm sure had we had fans in the stadium, the games had been more spread apart, we probably wouldn't have made as many of these individual errors. I feel like a lot of them have come down to probably the fatigue. The legs aren't quite as sharp. It's hard to play 90 minutes at the full intensity when you're not getting the rest because they've still got to train in between. And each team requires a different type of performance. So they've got to keep working on different formations or playing in a certain way to cope with certain players. So it's really hard to pinpoint who's to blame at the moment. And all teams up and down the league are having varied form. Unfortunately, we've just hit a dip. And I don't think it's we need to bring in this player, we need to bring in that player. Because what you have to remember is, Lloris has just taken a slight dip in form. That the defence has been chopped and changed to cope with things. Is the answer to bring Rodon in? I don't know. We don't know enough about him at the top level. Obviously, he was really good in the Championship. But this is a different kettle of fish. And he's then got to build a partnership with someone. Now, who's that partner going to be? Alderweireld's got the experience. Dyer's got the manager's back in. Sanchez has got a bit more pace about him. So we don't know where the defence is going to go. Doherty obviously hasn't been the player we thought we were going to get. But that's probably down to the fact that he's having to play more as a right back than essentially a winger like he was at Wolves. I know he was playing right wing back, but he was a lot further forward. He was practically a winger. I mean, the way they played, he didn't have to do too much defending, and that's where he's getting caught out. And the fact that Aurier has been playing a lot better than the Aurier we had last season. I feel like under Mourinho, he's been one of the most improved players. His defending is a bit iffy. He does have a mistake in him, and I do worry more when Sanchez is on the field because both of them are prone to that mistake. They have one in them a game, and sometimes that does lead to a goal, unfortunately. Then we talk about other players. Winks hasn't been playing to his full potential. I don't know the reason why. Has he been asked to play differently to how he was under Pochettino? So that one's there. Højbjerg, he's been fantastic. For me, he is probably the signing of the season. He goes under the radar because of the type of player he is. He doesn't get you goals, he doesn't get loads of assists, but he does the work that nobody else wants to do. And I'll be really interested to see what happens when we get Oliver Skip back. Will they be put together? Because looking at Skip at Norwich, he could play next to him. They can both play defensively, but Skip for Norwich, he's getting more freedom each game. He actually scored a goal in his last appearance for them. They broke, essentially. There was 3 Norwich players that broke on the attack, and there was only one defender chasing them. It was one of those, like it was, what do they call it in FIFA, a sweaty goal, where, you're running through on goal, and instead of taking the shot. You just play it to the guy next to you to slot in the easy goal. But nonetheless, that'll be great for his confidence. That's his first goal in a professional game for a first team. So that'll be interesting. You know, Lamella's hit form now, and if he can stay fit, that'd be great. Bergwijn needs to add a few goals. Hopefully Mora continues to step up, but he does this every season. He will have this patch where he goes on a good run of games, but he dips in and out of form. You know, he has the ability to be a world-class player. He's fantastic with the ball at his feet, but sometimes he does what I call an Alderweireld, runs like a headless chicken, head down and straight into danger, which also Lamella has a habit of doing. Bale now looks like he's starting to step his game up. The fitness is getting there. The quality is definitely there. If you watched in the West Ham game, oh my God, his ability to pick these passes blind is phenomenal. He knows where the players should be. You know, when you've played with the players like he has at Real Madrid, you know, they don't all speak the same language, so they have to play proper football. They have to play with their eyes up all the time. And, you know, these little flicks and stuff that he does around the corner, it's not like when you see Dele doing it or Lamella do it, where they look a bit more hopeful, but Bale does it, and, you know, the players should be there, and these are really good balls. And he picks and chooses his moments where he takes people on. He still loves to cut in on that left and try and get a shot off. So he's looking good. Dele's obviously stepping his performances up. But then at the same time, Kane's been out injured and has come back. And as we know with Kane, he has a habit of coming back from injury early. So it always takes him a few games to sort of get back in the swing of things. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. He's not quite there, not as sharp as he should be. But who do you play instead? This is the problem. And then there's Sonny, who's been a bit quiet as well of late. I don't know if that's because Kane's been injured and that broke up the partnership, so he's got to get used to other people. But, you know, that's the way it is. So hopefully they'll then get back to form. And Reguilón. You know, what a signing he was as well. He's now back. He's played a game. Obviously, it was his first game back, so the intensity was never going to be the same as it was just before the injury. But, you know, the squad is starting to look good now, and Lo Celso has been seen back in training out on the actual training field with the other guys, so that's good news. Fingers crossed he is back very soon. So once he's back, we have a fully fit squad. You know, the youngsters we've got are looking sensational. We've got players coming back to form. We could have a fully fit squad, which is really going to help us into this, you know, second half of the season to push on. And we have got a cup final coming up, which we really hope we win. And it's a shame that fans aren't going to be there. The FA are looking to push to see if they could have it as a test event, so we can get some people back in. But with, you know, the plan that's been set out as it is, there are going to be no fans, which is a shame because that's exactly why they moved it. So we could get some fans in there and it was a nice big occasion. You know, City are looking unstoppable at the moment. So whether we win that game or not, who knows? Fingers crossed. And come on, you Spurs. Hey guys, so thanks for watching that video. If you want to see more, please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to like. And if you want, turn on the notifications so you get notified when the next video comes out. And again, thank you so much. Up the Spurs.